Earth.
One of the tools we have to study heart health aboard the space station is an ultrasound device, which uses harmless sound waves to take images of the inside of our bodies. Those images can be viewed at the same time by researchers and doctors in mission control. With minimal training on the ultrasound, remote guidance techniques developed by NASA enabled astronauts to take detailed images of their own heart. In our next segment, we'll travel to a small community in Brazil that has benefited from remote medicine techniques that were advanced by the research aboard the International Space Station.
Minas
Gerais is a large state.
Nosso território tem
Our territory is about the size of France, and we consist of 853 units and municipalities.
grandes distâncias.
There are large distances between our communities and many very isolated rural communities.
Nós estamos utilizando a nova tecnologia.
We are using new technology that impacts the quality of prenatal care and the diagnostic capacity of the primary care doctor in these situations involving distant, isolated communities.
Providing medical care for people in remote locations, like distant rural communities or the International Space Station, can be difficult, because trained medical personnel are not always available. NASA research teams develop techniques that enable astronauts aboard the space station with minimal training to operate an ultrasound device using simple printed guides. The ultrasound images are transmitted in real time to a doctor back on Earth, who can make medical decisions without actually being aboard the station. These same techniques have been adapted for use with portable ultrasound devices in communities where expert medical care is not always available.
Estamos incorporando no componente da
We are
urgência
also incorporating the first aid and emergency care components, improving first aid at the scene of the accident, and enabling the use of ultrasound to communicate to the medical communication center.
Na ambulância, nós podemos usar ultrassom.
In the ambulance, we can use ultrasound in various situations. In those situations where time really matters, in which you have little time to make decisions.
A ideia de se usar a ultrassonografia point of care.
The idea of using ultrasound for healthcare is like an extension of the physical examination.
Condições de fazer o exame com
You are
mais
able to
detalhes.
conduct the exam with
Você
much
pode
more
usar
detail.
isso naquele momento e tomar uma decisão.
And you can use it at the time to make a decision, or you can use telemedicine platforms to obtain a second opinion from someone at a distance.
Bom, meu nome é Joaquim Edebilson Diniz.
My name is Joaquim Diniz. I'm a doctor in the town of Manga.
Manga, a gente vive uma
In Manga,
particularidade.
people live with a particularity, and that is isolation.
Nós temos uma barreira geográfica que é o Rio São Francisco.
We have a geographical barrier that is the São Francisco River,
Também
which is both a blessing for the region, but it also isolates us.
direita do Rio São Francisco. Nós vivemos numa região em que os
We
recursos
live in a region where financial resources are few.
das pessoas
People do not have a lot of work, but they are honest, good people who do not have minutes. 10 minutes, the woman immediately experienced an improvement, and in half an hour was already walking.
né?
It was like a miracle, a rise and walk.
E ela,
She was dying in front of us without people knowing what was happening.
sem a gente saber o que estava acontecendo. Então
This ultrasound was instrumental in saving the life of that patient.
Try that method, and basically it uses the prescription of like a higher intensity of exercise, but less volume or less number of exercise days. For example, like if I on board the space station 7 years ago, I pretty much exercised like running for 40 minutes in the same pace. But here, as far as cardiovascular is concerned, we have like a sprint running, like for a 30 seconds sprint, and 15 seconds rest, another 30 seconds of run. But it's only like 6 or 7 minutes, very short interval, but high intensity training. And you do that like 3 times a week instead of 7 days a week.
Wow.
And so it's like a smaller number of days of exercise, but the higher intensity. And that's part of the sprint protocol. So 7 years ago when I was on board the space station, I used the previous protocol, which I exercise every day. But this time, it's a smaller amount of time actually. But the results were pretty good. I was able to walk right after landing. And so I think this new protocol is working very well.
Wow. So if you compared when you were on board and landed 7 years ago to now, when you did this new protocol and you exercised more and you had probably more emphasis on the exercise because you have more equipment to work with.
Right.
A big difference, did you notice?
As for after landing, I don't see very much difference. So that means that's such a very efficient way to do exercise, because if the results are the same, if you spend less time and exercise, that means it's a very efficient way of exercising. So maybe we can utilize that in the future when we go to beyond low Earth orbit, when we go to Mars, and then so a lot of new protocols are being tested on board the station.
Yeah, and I can see where folks back here at home who don't have time to exercise pay attention to this, because you can spend less time working out and get the same benefits as if you were working out for 2 hours or something.
Right.
And you have done just a tremendous amount of work, Koichi, not just in your most recent increment, but throughout your career in the space program, and you've been an asset to Japan and to NASA and to the International Space Station and to Station Life. So thank you so much for being here with us, spending so much time sharing your stories. We've just had a lot of fun with you. So wish you all the best as we go forward. I'll see you, probably in 5 minutes, but, thank you so much for being here with us.
I enjoyed it. Thank you, Tracy.
Likewise.
Glad to be here.
Cool.